was going to see if you have any idea of something to discuss.
I don't know if, I haven't looked into it terribly, but I guess a couple of things. Curious about what your thoughts are, because they are apparently confrontational right now. Has to do with the protests happening in
Minneapolis?
Is it Minneapolis because of the ice shooting?
Yeah, because that was the thing I was going to ask you about. Yeah. I was going to say, have you watched?
I have seen videos of the shooting itself.
Yeah.
I have seen some videos, and of what I had seen. It was initially when I saw the video, it was kind of confusing. I heard gunfire, I just didn't know where I was hearing it from. It actually looked like it was coming from, or I at least got the impression it was coming out of a window of a vehicle, which is not what was happening from what I understand. So that's why I was trying to make sense of what I was looking at. But yeah, from what of the different stuff. I mean, so the video itself I saw was this guy trying to reach inside of a vehicle of a protester, and then the vehicle started to move, and then you heard gunfire. Based off of that, it was hard to know what was really going on there. Because that would seem like it was jumping the gun of it looked like everything was kind of peaceful, probably wouldn't be the right word, but it didn't feel like anything was heightened, and all of a sudden, I guess the vehicle moved and then he shot. So that seemed kind of odd. But I think from what other videos I have seen through some YouTubers or podcasters, it seems like they showed more stuff going on than just that. And I've seen another video. I think it was in relation to the same people, but it might have been a different encounter, or maybe an encounter at a different point with the same people. Because the other video that I had seen that was a longer video had to do with this ICE agent, I'm guessing, who was walking around the vehicle recording stuff, and one of the ladies was saying, "Don't worry about, I guess, us switching out license plates. We don't do that kind of thing." And then they encouraged them to, that same lady, maybe not that same lady, but one of those ladies encouraged them, as they were just videoing the whole thing, encouraged them to. It was much more of a mocking situation, but encouraging them to just go on their lunch. They said, "We'll be here when you get back. Go and have your lunch." And then I think he didn't walk around a second time with that, or maybe it was a third time, but he walked somewhat in front of the vehicle, and you saw a lady who was turning the wheel to back up, and then all of a sudden she pulled up. She started to, I guess, run him over, or maybe hit him or something like that. So that's why I think it was a different encounter, because there was no gun involved there. But this guy was, from what I understand, they were saying that she hit him. And then there's other people saying, well, you could clearly see him, that she was turning the wheel. He should have known. It's that is not how you react to any of that stuff. Or at least the lady shouldn't have done that, because you obviously don't just go unless you're sure that everything's cleared. So the person driving is more at fault there. The shooting aspect of it, my understanding of it was that
those two videos are actually the same.
They're the same. Okay.
Yeah.
So because from what I understand, he shoots her, and then she goes and takes off, and then she doesn't get very far before she just dies. That's because it looks like she goes off and crashes into a curb or something like that, or into some other area, and then it just stopped. And I assume that's when she dies. That's the way they make it. That's the way they're making it out. But I don't know where the connection is between that situation when she hits the guy and when he shoots, because he wasn't at her window when that happened. He was in front of the vehicle.
So for that, I've watched it from like a lot of different angles.
Right.
For it. One is the person who's walking around with the camera around the car.
Yeah.
He was the one that shot the gun.
That's what I figured.
Yeah. So for it, there, one part is that he was walking around filming with his phone, which is in some cases interesting because they're supposed to have body cams.
Okay.
So, and for it, there does seem from, I was seeing some people with like legal stuff of when she drove forward, of them going, wheels were turned away from him.
Okay.
For it, that by the time that he was shooting, his body was leaning over like this.
Okay.
So he was. There's argument to say that he might have gotten like nudged by the car for it, and if it was in the part of self-defense, the first shot that he did was, they say, was possibly could be argued for self-defense.
So what I saw, the shooting that I had seen was that the guy walked over to a vehicle, was putting his hands inside the vehicle, and then they were trying to go.
Yeah. So
and then you hear gunshots. This other video that I saw, he wasn't even near the driver's side of the vehicle like that other video showed, and she started to take off, and then he was like, it looked like he was starting to trip over himself because she was like fixing to hit him. It like almost like he was trying to back up at reaction, and then the video stops. So I don't actually see what happens after that, but that's what I see there. So that video doesn't make a whole lot of sense that for it, right after that he shoots, because that would suggest that he grabs on, he's at her door at that point, and that's not the way the initial shooting video looked.
Yeah, the person who grabbed the door, he doesn't shoot.
Okay.
He does not do any shoot. And
so it's a person away from the vehicle that shoots.
So the person that's in front.
Okay.
Well, he's more at the corner.
Okay, I guess that's the problem. I couldn't tell who was shooting. I just heard gunshots.
Because I think I know which, like, from video you're seeing is, like, from it as it comes up, you can see, like, it looks like it's just one guy walking up. But it doesn't show that the other guy has walked around on the other side.
Okay.
So his video doesn't show that the other guy is there until she starts driving. And all right there. And so he suddenly, from that perspective, he suddenly appears out of nowhere.
The guy who goes over to the driver's side?
The person who shot. So
okay.
So the person from that video, because from that camera angle, it looks like the two people are right on top of each other. So it looks all just like one person, unless you look and see that there's like four arms.
Oh, right. Okay.
And part of it is that one is like they arrive. He's there first. He does the circling around, and by the time he does, like, he's doing the circling around, the other group comes around, and he's on the other side.
Which other group?
Of the truck that comes in, of the truck that comes into that car. They're coming on the other side of the car. you have the red pilot.
Mm-hmm.
So the first person comes in. He's on the right side. He comes around and comes back over here.
Right.
Another car comes up.
Okay.
These people come out, and he comes out in front.
The guy comes out in front of those vehicles?
In front of her vehicle.
It's not the red car, the other one.
The red car. He comes out in front of the red car as the people from the other car come in and start to confront the lady.
Okay, so the other car is probably ICE agents?
Both of them are ICE. It's two separate ICE.
Right. So I'm saying that the red car is not ICE.
Red car is not ICE.
The car on the other side of ICE, or on the other side of the red vehicle, that's an ICE agent. Those are some ICE people. And then the guy that's staying on the opposite side, doing the walking around, he's also an ICE person.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
But different, like a different group.
Right. Okay.
So, and then he comes around. He comes in front of the car as the other ones come around. So, in that situation, I go that she had no idea that at the moment that he was there coming out in front.
So, the video that I saw where she is driving out and hits the guy, it's pretty clear that she's seeing him. You can see her looking at him whenever she's like moving around.
Like she has seen him, but in the moment of other person reaching in, doesn't quite.
No, so you're saying that the guy who reaches into the vehicle, she didn't see him.
The guy who reached into his vehicle, her focus is on that guy who's reaching into the car.
So the one I saw, her focus was not on that guy. Her focus was on the guy in front of the vehicle.
That was the part where
when she started driving.
So that I would say from it looks like she was. There was from what I saw that she was focused on the incoming car of the second group of ICE, and that from her the last time she saw him, the guy that got in front of the car, was on the right side of her. So by the time that he got in front, the other person had grabbed, and she looks around in panic.
So I could believe that there's another guy who comes over to the driver's side and starts to grab her, and she starts to panic and not think about the guy in front of her. But because from what I can recall, as she's like kind of like turning to back up and then move, I think it's what happened. It's pretty clear she sees that guy in front of her as she's doing that. I want to say she even like, I'm not certain, but I want to say she even like was responding or saying something to him. Not that he could hear it, but just,
that was on his first walk around.
Yeah.
That's when.
Well, okay. So I'm thinking of where she's fixing to. I mean, that could be the case. I could be meshing those two together.
Because from it, the part where it looks like I'd say that she's looking around at him is she's actually looking at the other side, because on the other side, like somebody's also trying to get into the door to tell her to drive off. Because the person.
Oh yeah. So that's the other thing I couldn't tell, but when I saw the video, other people were mentioning that there's another lady who was with her who was telling her to take off.
Yeah.
And I guess she's getting in the vehicle with her and to drive, which seemed questionable in and of itself because of the situation. Like they were trying to escape a situation that maybe they shouldn't be, but I wasn't entirely sure. I wasn't entirely sure what the protest itself was about, besides maybe the ICE agents themselves.
So, for it is the part that the person in front shot her as she was fleeing.
Okay. So was he pulling out a gun as he was recording?
As he was recording, he pulled out the gun.
Okay. So that video that I saw of that situation must have just cut off before he shot her. Because there was no gun I heard in that specific video. Whenever
is it when he's walking around?
It's when he's walking around, and then she drives, and it looks like he's like tripping over the fact that she's fixing to hit him, and then the video cuts off. The video I saw it cuts off.
Yeah.
And I don't hear anything after that, and so
there's 3 pops right there, and that's the part of timing it up with the other one is that. The argument, from what I've heard, is that in the first part, it could be argued that his first shot was self-defense.
Okay.
Because for it just to barely get out of the way.
Yeah.
He clearly got out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
But for it, you can see from the first shot, you could argue that he's barely getting out of the way.
Right.
And that's like, the fear of life. But then the second 2 shots are from the side.
Side of the vehicle?
Side of the vehicle.
Okay.
And that's the part I'd say in the long run that is no longer self-defense. Because he's clearly no longer in danger.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's shooting in the side. Right there. So totally no longer in danger.
Okay.
And that's the part where I would say most people just argue that the fact that he drew his gun in that situation when she was trying to flee, when you're not supposed to shoot at a fleeing suspect or a person. And that an officer is only supposed to use deadly force like that if they have no other option, if they can't get out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
And so for him to do that, they are saying that it was murder in the 3rd degree.
3rd degree?
Which is...
intent, isn't it?
Not intent. It's... in your...
it's 1st degree the worst?
Like 1st degree is the worst.
Okay.
Like 3rd degree of killing somebody without the intent. And
right.
The action that you do kills them, and not like, hey, I hit a baseball bat on a ball and hit somebody, but if I'm like, I have a throwing knife and I'm throwing at targets, which a throwing knife is a deadly weapon, and it misses and it hits somebody.
Mm-hmm. So the bullets, whenever I heard the gunshots, it sounded pretty quick.
Yeah, it was 3 rapid.
Right.
Quick.
So with that, I mean, you could say the first shot was just self-defense, but the other 2 were not. But it happened so quick that I would say that it's not a worthy distinction.
I think it's probably actually a worthy distinction.
Not if it's happening that quickly.
Well, I mean,
they're reacting to a dangerous situation.
But even if they're reacting in a dangerous situation, the part that, like, if your body position is completely different, says a whole lot.
What do you mean completely different?
So for it, say that to a person who is robbing your store, say they're robbing your house, and they're in the house and you've shot them and they're and such, and they're on the ground and they've been disarmed, do you have the right?
Maybe disarmed.
Yeah, if they're robbing stuff and if they have any weapons,
Yeah.
you've taken that away.
Okay.
Does that, in that situation, give you the right to shoot them?
That's not a good comparison to what happened, because there's been enough time. If you're able to take the gun, if you're able to remove the weapon, that's enough time to be able to readjust your mind onto what's going on. It's not happened so quickly that you don't have enough time to shift what's going on. So like if it's happened, because what I'm getting at is that, like, say you've shot, they're on the ground, and then I'm assuming that at that point you've probably shot them at that point, and that's why they're on the ground. Well, if you have enough time to get to remove their gun, that's a lot less time than the rapid fire. And so that's enough time to be able to readjust. Okay, here's what's going on now. But with the rapid fire, that's not the same thing. You going for the gun is not happening within seconds. Not like, or probably more like milliseconds, to be honest, by comparison. It's not happening like, it would be similar to like saying, as you're shooting, you're going over to them and then maybe kicking the gun away. But I doubt you're doing that. You're probably going to be shooting first, see they're on the ground, go over to them, then kick the gun away. And then it's no longer self-defense. If you shoot after that, that's a very different situation. This one, it's like it happens too quickly for that to even be a consideration.
So, okay, what about the situation that you have shot them, they have fallen down, and you continue to shoot? Right there. They're on the ground. But you haven't... In that part, they're on the ground, and now they have fallen down, and you've adjusted to shoot them on the ground.
I think that's kind of... I think the adjustment aspect is not enough. Is too minuscule.
I would say most people would, in that part right there, it has no longer become like self-defense, is more in rage. If you have neutralized them, you have seen them fall down on the ground, and then you continue to shoot.
I'm thinking more of a reaction. At that point, you're probably still reacting to that moment where they were on it, and then you're still shooting at that point. That's why I say that there's a difference between that and, like, say you go over to disarm them. You've had enough time to think about what's going on, and so if you still shoot them after that, okay, then you screwed up. But if they've just started to fall down, and you are still shooting. I'm not saying it wouldn't be a type of thing where it's not that you couldn't argue that it's no longer self-defense. I'm just saying I'm not so sure you can react that quickly.
Yeah, I have to double check the video to see if after he got out of the way, if he kept like stepping in and going along with it to shoot. Now,
I will say it would be impressive if, let's say, he readjusts himself and he stops shooting after that. It would be impressive if he actually stopped shooting, because I think that probably takes a lot of control too. Also, they get in that mindset of no longer trying to protect yourself, even whenever they've already taken off it. I'm not so sure your mind thinks that quickly about that stuff. I think you're just more of, at that point, reacting to it. I'm thinking of how fast I heard the gunfire. It didn't seem like it was fast enough to be able to react that way. And there's only one time I've seen where someone reacted that way, and it was surprisingly impressive on video. It was whenever that riot happened. It's a riot that happened, and the guy who did the shooting was put on trial. It happened during 2020, during the George Floyd situation. It didn't happen in that city, I don't think, but it was in another city that happened in. This guy had a rifle or AK or something like that, and he was going around in that area where people were rioting, and I guess trying to protect the area. And then people saw him with a gun, they started coming after him or something like that. And so he started shooting people who were coming at him with weapons. And the thing was that as soon as it was surprising to see how quickly he would, as soon as it was the type of thing where as soon as they would, even if he was on the ground, as soon as they stopped trying to pursue him, he had seconds where he would decide no longer to try and shoot someone because they were no longer a threat. And that was surprising how quickly he could readjust to that. It was as if he was trained in some way towards that. He claimed he wasn't. I don't think he was telling the truth. I think it seemed like in that situation he was probably trying to get out of a bad situation. Or during court he was probably trying to get out of a bad situation. I'm not sure. I know he claimed that he didn't have any prior experience. It's hard to believe what happened. It was the amount of control he had of when he did and did not shoot was surprising. Because people would usually, especially don't have that much experience, you're not going to, I don't think, as far as I know, you won't be able to control that easily, how quickly you're going to get in and out of that fight or flight type of situation. Your mind's just going to be in, okay, I need to shoot them because they're coming at me. If they stop right in that moment, you're not also going to stop shooting. It's just, you are still in that moment of, I need to protect myself. But that guy actually didn't do that. He was actually able to control himself a lot more than you would expect, which threw people off. That's the only time I've seen that type of situation.
I still think in the part where there's a part where you are in the moment of possibly, you can argue that you're from the part where you're in front, that you can be seeing that the bullet hole, you can see from the shot the bullet holes from the front of the window to switching to the side of a vehicle. You have more of a time to actually to stop shooting, to go from here to here. Is your hand motion is still it's a totally different position that you're at, and not
what do you mean you have time to no longer shoot?
So if you're here, I'm leaning over the car for the shoot.
Right.
And to come over to this part right here to change into shooting like this.
Right.
Is a part that you're no longer in danger. And
that your mind will register that you're no longer in danger?
That you have possibly done excessive change from being in that profession to be you're supposed to be under control of the situation. Your job is to be you're supposed to control yourself.
Right.
Supposedly you're supposed to be trained to know that in that part right there that you're no longer in front right there, that you should not shoot at that point.
I don't even know that police officers are that good at that.
Yeah. But
I mean, I get what you're saying. That would be nice theoretically. I don't know that that's actually that realistic. Is what I'm getting at.
Yeah. But the other part where I would get is the part that he wasn't obeying the rules that they were supposed to also do.
Which is what?
One is that you're not supposed to kind of walk and put yourself in front of the vehicle.
Okay.
He's not supposed to do that.
Yeah, I thought it was weird what he was doing. But, yeah, okay. Not supposed to walk up or walk around or...
in those... With a vehicle, put yourself in the front.
Okay, put yourself in the way of danger.
Put yourself in the way. And that... Even if a vehicle is coming towards you, you are not supposed to pull your weapon unless you have no other way of getting, if you have no way of getting out, unless you're cornered or that other person is threatening other people's lives.
I say that's a nice rule. I say good look with that actually happening in real life. If you are, especially because it sounds like they're in a situation where, since they're ICE agents of some sort, that they're expecting tense situations. I wouldn't be surprised if a car starts coming at you. I wouldn't be surprised if they start to react to that. I mean, getting out of the way makes sense, obviously, but I wouldn't be surprised if they start reacting to that.
And then also another thing is that they are highly discouraged from shooting people in moving vehicles.
I assume that has more to do with other damage that it could cause.
Yes.
Right.
So there's supposed to be a lot of different factors that for them to, I mean, one of it is like consider, but also just for it to think about, hey, like one is you're most of the time not supposed to shoot at a vehicle. So
like them specifically or just in general?
In general, because of you see the person driving off and like crashing to a vehicle.
Yeah.
To be like, that's part of the danger.
Yeah.
Right there. Just say, if shot and there's actually a person down over there instead of her just hitting a car. And all that. So I would also put that part into consideration of what the ICE officer put himself into and responded that way was not like huge.
How was he dressed?
I think he dressed like in winter clothes, but he also had like the vest saying like ICE police. So
the reason I wonder is the fact that he was recording it on phone was weird in and of itself. Though he was walking around and doing that, I thought was. I mean, I don't know if there was a reason for it or if it was.
Palantir. Palantir. Have you heard of Palantir?
No, I don't know what you're talking about.
It's a different company that's collecting data.
Okay, I'm still not sure what.
It's supposed to be making a list of people that they view are. It's a different thing of ICE collecting data on citizens.
Because, like, for instance, like as far as I know, that person that they were dealing with, they looked like they probably weren't illegal, but they were like obstruct. It seemed like what it was is that they were blocking the road.
5 seconds before that, a car passed by them.
Okay, so why were they? What was the whole issue in the first place? I don't really know why they were even over there.
So part of it
I just know there was shooting that happened. It looked like my understanding was that there was some sort of protest that they were obstructing vehicles, but I don't really know.
Yeah, but part of it is that they're also like honking to the neighborhood some of them do block traffic, but part of it is honking in the neighborhood to alert people that ICE is there in the neighborhood.
Oh, that's what they were doing. Okay.
So they were doing that, and so those people were recording them to say, hey, these are, to collect data on, okay, these are some people who are who are obstructing ICE agents. Supposedly.
Right.
That's the part right there that is the argument.
If you're hindering it by honking and letting them know, hey, they're here, that is hindering. Or that is, at this time, unlawful. So at that point, they are breaking the law with that. Not to say what they were doing, how they handled it, those ICE people were as appropriate. I'm not sure. But it sounds like what the ladies themselves were doing was also illegal.
Yeah, so the part right there is there's been cases of part of it has to do with like Supreme Court cases and like most of the time involving police of say that they are raiding a house for a criminal. There's a criminal inside. And you go over to hinder or alert that the police are out there. and they're trying for that house, that would be considered obstruction.
Yeah.
If they're out there patrolling, you can alert other people that the police are there. That's something that you can do.
If they're out patrolling, I mean, patrolling is, but at the same time, that's not what ICE is doing. They're specifically going after people. They're not necessarily. I don't know if they started patrolling yet. Honestly,
that's the part that with ICE is that they're patrolling the streets and just picking up random people.
So the reason why I was asking what the guy was wearing, especially with so it sounds like there's someone who's become associated with ICE, who's like a separate company, who's working with them, and that's what's going on there. That's possibly what's going on there with those guys. The other thing I was thinking was because they were using their phones and stuff like that. From what I understand, I don't know if that's changed recently, but there was a point where ICE was pretty much accepting anyone to help them out.
Oh, they still are.
Right. Okay. And so
you get a $50,000 bonus to join them.
Oh, to join them. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was like $50,000 if you caught someone.
No, it's a $50,000 hiring bonus.
Okay. But yeah, so what I was saying was that if that person was recording, then most likely they were more of civilian type of people who were just doing it in their own way. It was just kind of awkward. But that was the only thing that made, because I didn't see like a professional ICE agent. Because like you said, body cam and stuff like that, I could see how maybe those people didn't have body cams, maybe. And that's why they were using a phone to record stuff. But it could have also, so if those companies are trying to record stuff, are they using body cams or were they actually just having people use their phones?
I think it's supposed to be both. They're doing, one is for people go for like what they're supposed to be as agents is to have the body cams. And the other one is the cell phones. One is to record information for some other organization within the government for them to collect data. But yeah, the part where it's recording for Palantir, which is used as a spying agency to track what you're doing.
A spy agency?
Spying agency. Technological spying agency.
Spy?
Spy company.
Spy company. Okay. I was just making sure I did hear you say spy.
Yeah.
Okay. Because the commentary I had heard on it, and it was more so from a guy who used to be in the military. How I understood it, he was making it out like the person who was, and they had seen from my understanding, they had been watching all the different videos and stuff like that. I had the understanding that they were saying that it was a person who was trying to grab at or reach in to grab at the driver that was the one who pulled who shot, because at that point it was more of a question of was that appropriate and stuff like that. And one of the things that there was a couple of different things that they had mentioned with that. But one of the things that this guy had mentioned was that something that no one else would also really know when that guy did that is how the person was looking at them when they did that. Meaning that did they have a look on their face that suggested something concerning when they were looking at them that caused them to just react the way they did. And that it made it sound like there was like, so honestly, the way this guy I was listening to was talking, he made it sound like after looking at the stuff and asking different questions, like the whole thing seemed like it was probably justified how the ICE agents responded.
I would go with Probably not, because afterwards, the agent insulted her as like the car is barreling down the road, insulting her.
You mean as he's shooting?
After he shot.
After.
With
Okay.
a very derogatory word for a woman.
Okay, well that doesn't surprise me. If he was sensing if he was fearing and she was doing that, I'm not surprised he said that. That's not saying it's okay, but I'm not surprised that that's how he reacted. I mean, I have no doubt he was ticked off in that moment at what just happened. So I'm not surprised that he said that.
Yeah, but what came afterwards was also kind of the response that was not good, to give medical aid to the person afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
Was one was to prevent other people from coming to her vehicle for medical assistance. Even when you had a doctor come there saying, "I'm a doctor, can I check to make sure like everything's okay, check a pulse," and ICE agents were saying no. And then they also blocked an ambulance.
Why?
We don't know, but they blocked the entrance of the ambulance to get there and had to put the ambulance somewhere else so that then they could come to the spot. But they're supposed to have the ambulance come into the spot right there. Part of the theory is also that that they are either could be planting evidence or hiding evidence in that moment. That's a theory.
That's interesting because of the stuff that I was aware of that was out there with the videos. A number of people said that it looked like it made sense what had happened, like how they reacted in shooting and stuff like that, because of how the people were behaving, that they were being a threat or something like that. That was how most of people, once they looked at it, said that it actually made sense what was happening. So I'm not so sure that it would be necessary to plant any evidence or whatever, because the video that was out there seemed to be it seemed to justify the situation.
Yeah, the other reports for me is that the videos actually put into part that it makes it even more guilty for the person. For one was the lady in question that was shot was non-confrontational.
What do you mean by non-confrontational?
She was trying to de-escalate the situation.
Which lady?
The lady in the car. They would say possibly the lady on the outside would be annoying. The lady...
For some reason, I seem to recall whenever they were showing a video of the lady inside the car that I didn't pick up on non-confrontation.
She was like, "Don't worry, I'm not angry at you."
Okay, well, I will say when she was saying that stuff, there was, I think what it was that it came across as very mocking. Like the tone said it all, is what I think as how I took it when I heard that, and so I didn't see it as, it seemed like she was more of like egging him on and stuff like, or in a sense egging him on or mocking the situation. Like all the ladies I saw in there were at least mocking the whole thing.
For it, obviously the person in the car sounded to me more of trying to de-escalate.
That's not okay, Matt. It's possible, but that's not what I caught.
The lady who was on the outside, I would say, was more aggressive towards it.
I did. Okay, I mean, I remember more so what the lady on the outside did, which I would agree seemed like she was trying to cause a problem. But I didn't, of what I recall, it didn't it didn't seem like the lady inside the vehicle would be much better. So I didn't pick up on her being she may not have been as bad as the lady, but it didn't seem like she was trying to make things better. It's like she was like mocking him whenever she was doing what she was doing, and then trying to take off. So that's how I understood that whole thing. I didn't see anyone trying to I didn't see anyone trying to de-escalate the situation. I mean, the other things that I was seeing that people were saying was because there was milliseconds where you could see of how they were doing certain things in their vehicle to where it should clearly show that they weren't trying to do anything wrong. At the same time, whenever I was seeing it was like, I think that people are relying too much on people being able to think too quickly in this situation rather than actually just reacting to situations. Them reacting to what was going on in general actually made sense. If they could respond faster in the sense that would have, and I'm talking about the ICE agents, if they could have responded faster in a way that wouldn't have caused harm, that would have been impressive, but I'm not sure if that's realistic.
But
it seems like there's a lot of hopeful thinking with how people are going to react in those situations, that everything they're going to react in a perfect, that everyone should react in a perfect way, and if you don't, shame on you.
But would you also go of course we want it to like react in the perfect way, but for that there should be I'd say like an investigation to see.
Yeah, sure, investigate. Yeah. That's no problem with that. I mean, you want to make sure that things were done right.
Yeah, but I would also you would go in the way that a person in that situation would react, but the other part of where the other parts where I mentioned of he's not supposed to be in front of the vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
He's not supposed to discharge his weapon unless he doesn't have any other option. And he's told not to shoot into a moving vehicle.
Mm-hmm. Why are you not supposed to get in front of the vehicle?
Because that's the part where that is putting yourself in danger.
Okay. So they're trying to put it that to reduce cops. But where do these rules come from?
One is the Department of Homeland Security's handbook.
Okay. Other
ones is training material for what they're supposed to do.
For who?
The one for getting in front of the vehicle and only pulling out your weapon, and for if you have no other option, that's in the Department of Homeland Security. The one about shooting in a moving vehicle, that I think is more of police.
Okay.
So I will go with that one is not is one that's supposedly more recommended, while the other two are the policies in their handbook.
Right.
I don't know if, and also don't know if it's law or not. If it's law, then he was not supposed to be in front of the vehicle.
Right. Do you know how current that stuff is? Is this stuff that was done under Trump's administration or under Biden's? And if so, what I'm curious about is if it's possible that that's some old laws and that they have actually updated stuff because of stuff that's going on to where they are allowing them to do other things. I don't know.
Yeah. And I think I'll have to see about it, because if it's policy, I'll have to double check of when it was changed. And if it is sort of laws and such, I think that has to possibly be Congress approved.
Maybe. I don't know, maybe.
Yeah. So, like, with that, from the videos and such, I was seeing that the book was on the most recent, I think, for like a recent handbook of what they're supposed to do.
Okay.
The one of not getting in front of the vehicle and not firing unless they are. One is.
So the complaint that people are having is that they were doing that in the first place, and not the complaint of how dare you interfere with people trying to help other people out.
Can you say that again?
I said, so the complaint wasn't so much, or the complaint was more so about how they're going about the whole thing, and that not so much of how dare you interfere with other people trying to help people out, trying to help people not get taken.
So
like just like the reaction isn't just based off of just disliking ICE. It has more specifically to do with how they went about it in the first place.
I think it's a combination of both. One of definitely not liking ICE, but what they say is how quickly the gun was pulled out. To be that what it looks like when was not something that was raising to the level of to be arrested and just immediately attempting to pull out of the vehicle.
Now, I will say, I didn't understand initially whenever I saw the video why there was even a gun in the first place. Because if the person, I doubted that the person inside the vehicle had a gun. That just didn't seem like that's how they did. I would have a hard time thinking that because of what they're doing that they'd have a gun, because of their beliefs. But I also, the person, so my understanding was that with what I had seen was that there's a person who was there's a person who was reaching inside, there's an ICE agent reaching inside the driver's side, and as that was happening, the person was trying to drive off, and then with that there was gunshots that were fired, and I was thinking it was either that it was gunshots that were fired by the driver or by the guy who was at the driver's side window, and because then I found out afterwards that the driver, just like a block down at best, died because they were shot. Like, okay, so it wasn't the driver who did the shooting, but I thought that what it was that the person at the actual driver's side door was the one who did the shooting of the person. And even that to me I thought was kind of odd, just because I feared he was just trying to stop them from maybe trying to pull them out or something like that. I didn't know if it would have made sense that they would have had a gun pulled out to do that, or just try to pull them out, and why have a gun in that case. And so part of my thought was that, okay, so if that's the case, then as they're trying to move, you pull your gun out to stop them from trying to drive off,
which is against the law.
But besides that was my understanding, that's what they would be trying to do. But if that were the case, that still seemed like it would be I wasn't sure if that made a whole lot of sense of that happening. So the gunfire aspect that just happened, period, confused me given the situation. Now, I didn't know about the other person who was outside the vehicle, who was standing away from the vehicle, that they did the shooting. I didn't understand that. I thought they were. I couldn't tell at that same time. I couldn't tell who did the shooting. I just knew that there was someone who was standing there who almost it looked like they were just witnessing the whole thing happening and maybe trying to sort of aid in some way, but they're just kind of they were there and they saw the whole thing happen. And it seemed like they were trying to yell at the person, tell them to stop or something like that. But I wasn't sure. I couldn't tell well enough. And I didn't spend enough time watching video to make sense out of that. But it also wouldn't surprise me, despite, I mean, I guess, it's against the law, but it wouldn't have surprised me if they tried to pull a gun out to stop them from driving away. Because then you're also trying to, you are flee. It's similar to like you're trying to flee from the police. That's also against the law.
It is against the law, but it's also against the law for a police officer to shoot a fleeing suspect.
Yeah, I've heard that.
And that came out to the Supreme Court.
That they shouldn't do that?
That they shouldn't. They can't. Right. They can't shoot. So it was law put in and then test.
I imagine that it has more to do with because the reason why you'd shoot is if your life was threatened.
Yeah.
And since your life is not threatened because they're fleeing, you shouldn't.
You endangering more people.
Right.
Because you don't know if those shots are going to hit them or hit a bystander.
Right. I mean, which is kind of interesting because if they're coming towards you, you could say the same thing. If you're going to go that route. If you're going to go with that logic, you could say the same thing.
But yeah, they would say like the only other part would be if they're endangering somebody else.
That you can still shoot. That you can shoot them if they're running away from you, but running towards someone. That you could shoot them.
Yeah, if they're running towards somebody and it's endangering somebody else,
right?
You can.
Yeah.
So the part there is, if they're both if the person's coming at you, the part of that's okay to shoot is that somebody's already has the intent to kill, so in theory somebody is going to die right there. So
might as well not be you.
So that, and they would go in the extremes of that situation of
right
that part. But
at that point, you're trying to stop the threat of evil.
Yeah.
So,
and the other part of if you're trying to stop somebody else also from doing the same thing.
Right. Yeah.
And for myself, from what I've seen the video of, like, the first shot was, as I would say, was could be probably defended in court of law as fear of life, but the other two shots from the side were not.
I think that would be hard to make a case for and how I heard how quickly the shots happen. I think that'd be too hard to make a case for. I guess I should say, if you were to do that, I think you'd be kind of a punk because I just don't see people reacting fast enough to be able to just be like, okay, now we're good. The emotions or reactions you're having, just I don't think they adjust that quickly. I don't think we would adjust that quickly. So
yeah, even when we say of the ideas that emotion switching so quickly, if we go down that logic, then anybody practically in a fit of rage should be like, I was only trying to say kill this one person. I wasn't trying to kill the other three. It still means you're going to get charged for killing all four and not just one.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So
I'm making it more of a case of like this. You're talking about self-defense. I would have a hard time seeing that you might be able to technically legally say, okay, I wasn't self-defense, so that doesn't count. But to say that you shouldn't have been in self-defense mode at that point, give me a break. That's just, things are happening too quickly. No, it would be hard to think that someone would flip that switch that quickly. Not with how fast. And I'm going specifically because of you're mentioning the movements, but I'm going specifically based off of remembering how quickly the shooting was happening. I wouldn't see anyone be able to just switch that mode of being able to go from okay, it's no longer a threat. I don't see most people being able to switch that. And so at that point, it's more so not saying it's more so. I think it would be unreasonable to say, oh, you should have switched at that point.
Yeah.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, I have to.
Legally, that's one thing, but to say that, oh, you should have been done with that, that's not realistic. Come on now.
I'm trying to remember the video, but I'll have to probably double check because for myself, I'm trying to think of it. Was it toot 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 or toot toot toot?
I mean, either way, both of those don't. I mean, I think you have to have like several seconds in between for it to adjust. I don't see that as even that being a type of thing where it's hard to switch off the self-defense aspect within that time period. I don't think anyone, unless you're truly accustomed to doing that, would be able to switch that off.
No, and I think that's the part where experts have to kind of determine in that moment,
right?
Which is the other part of. I hope they do because so far there is a blocking of an investigation, which is lovely.
Blocking of an investigation. So
the state is trying to investigate. FBI says they will investigate, and all state is going like, we'll turn over stuff to the FBI, but FBI is saying we're not turning stuff over to you.
So they're both saying that they're going to investigate it, and the state's saying we'll cooperate with you, but the FBI is not returning the favor.
Yeah.
Interesting. Wonder why.
Good. Because I don't know. Either one is viewed as if.
So they're not stopping an investigation from happening. They're just not helping each other, or one of them just not helping the other out. But they're not blocking anything. They're not saying we can't investigate this. No one can investigate it.
But it'll be like, hey, we like to investigate the shell casings. FBI has that. They're not allowed to.
They're not gonna. They've said they're not gonna give it up.
Yeah, or share the
right.
There, which I'm going. This is kind of like a problem if. Most of the time, if this situation happens, you'll have both like a state and a federal, but once that happens, the plaintiff can see if somebody can see if to stick with federal or just stick with state charges or go with both.
So the ICE agents they're a federal?
The part of the Department of Homeland Security. So they're federal.
But I see what you're talking about, right? And so that's probably why it may be legally that the FBI can't if it's a federal thing.
But it's also there is situations of if an officer there's some tests to see if what the officer was doing was like in carrying out their duty to be prosecuted, because there was a Supreme Court case of a federal officer that was off duty, not completely off. He was in civilian, and he made an arrest. Well, he was as a civilian.
Right, okay.
And the question was that federal officer and the right have the right to make the arrest.
Right.
And so that came up of could federal officers be charged in state court manner? And
according to TV shows, you can still do it even if you're not on the clock.
Yeah. But the part was he but did he overstep his boundaries?
Right, yeah.
For it. And that was the part right there of there's going to be an investigation on the state side as well, but not have all the evidence.
Wait, did who overstep his bounds?
Well, I was talking with the person for the Supreme Court case.
Okay.
Who made that arrest.
Right. Okay.
And so that was for that investigation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd say that the thing that would end up being tricky is, and I guess you would have to see what experts would say. But you also probably have. I would think you have to be kind of be selective or careful of the kind of the experts you might pick, depending on if they basically make sure that it's someone who's not partial to. I don't like this administration or something like that. Make sure you have someone who's impartial to the whole thing. But yeah, aside from that, in a sense, just because something is a law doesn't mean that that's how we're going to respond to stuff. Like just instinctively. So to get on someone because well, this is a law. It's like at that point, it may sound kind of odd, but you almost have like, in a sense, grace, or you have understanding about the situation, because if they're feeling threatened, then it's hard to turn that off quick enough. Depending on how long depending on how quickly everything happens, it's hard to just turn that off and to get on them saying, the next second they were done, it's like, and do you think that's reasonable that you're going to just stop reacting that way within a second? I mean, no one's going to just shut that off. You're now on hyper alert with everything, so you're going to react to stuff, and hopefully you can control yourself well enough that you don't do something stupid. That's really what you hope for. In the end, it doesn't always happen, and at that time you might feel guilt afterwards. But you really hope that you won't do something stupid during the time that you're on hyper alert with stuff. If you feel like you're in danger.
Yeah.
And so that's what it sounds like. What was going? It sounds like it could have been what was going on there. That the person was hyper alert, felt in danger, and with how quickly I heard the shots happening, it didn't sound like they had enough time to adjust how they're feeling in between the first shot and the others.
Yeah. But I've also other parts of the reports of that officer, like 6 months prior, had been dragged by another car.
I've been dragged by another. I had heard about that, and that's actually so. What I had heard from that was, because this had happened a second time, this is a problem that these people are not for the ICE agents, but that this is happening to ICE agents.
Yeah.
I think that's what I had heard.
Yeah. And I've also heard that if he is put into that, if he is still in that trauma for it right there, that he should not have been on duty. If he hasn't been able to deal with that if he's if he was going to be put into that situation, which would make him be like, I have to pull out my gun. Which cloud his judgment.
Yeah. That I can see.
I was like, I view that as sort of like reasonable for that, and for those protests to be. I'm probably sorry, my mind switched gears for a moment. Something else, but to have that, I would say. Other part is, if there's such a large amount of the country that is against it doing these things, I would say it might put in, should, one of two things is that, one, they are doing something right that's like hard to do, or the other one is that they're doing something completely wrong and people notice.
As far as I can tell, it's not like a lot of people are against this. There might be a number of people who are, but I don't think it's a majority, or whatever you want to call it. I think if anything, it might be divided. on what's going on. I mean, I know that at least I saw a photo of protesters. It looked like they were in the subdivision, and because it was showing a huge group of people who were I think it was like over the weekend or something like that.
I've heard the Minneapolis, like definitely the protesters across the country, but like the biggest one's definitely Minneapolis.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
But now the other thing that I have come across is that because of how many people were there, it was more so a question of is it legitimate protests or are they basically paid actors?
I mean, for it, I think at some point if you go with paid actors is one gets into an argument that anything that somebody says is an excuse to not face the question that's being raised. There are times where there are paid actors, I would agree, and sometimes where you have some people are not the paid actors. Because I saw a video of what was a protest happening where somebody was burning a flag.
Okay. The U.S. flag or?
U.S. flag.
Okay.
And the people came after that guy telling him he should not have done that.
Mm-hmm.
And from it, they kept like following him to be like, hey, why in the world did you do that? Why are you instigating everything?
Mm-hmm.
Right there. And it turned out to be more of a right-wing paid activist.
A right-wing paid activist?
Yep.
Like, that's what the person said?
That's what they found about that person was a right-wing paid activist.
A right-wing paid activist burned the American flag.
Yep.
That's hard to believe. Something about that is not that doesn't make sense. If you are right-wing, you're not going to burn the American flag. Someone's lying about this. Someone's lying about that. They're not really right-wing, or something else has happened. But those things don't add up.
I would go the part that the right wing has paid protesters have the same thing, because there was like the P. Diddy trial had like right wing people pay for people to come out there and protest his arrest.
Okay,
Yeah.
That's possible. I'm more specifically referring to this specific person burned the American flag. If they're right wing, I highly doubt they're going to burn the American flag. They might burn some other flag, but I doubt they're going to burn the American flag, because generally right wing has a bit more of a lot of pride towards America. And so I'd have a hard time thinking that they'd willingly burn the American flag. They probably found that to be too much of an insult. Whereas I could see them be like, yeah, sure, I'll burn another flag. That's no problem.
I don't think that's it. Go look back at the history for it. Most of it's not showing the video of the confrontation afterwards. They're just like, it was like burning. Didn't show it afterwards. Of them following the guy.
Mm-hmm. Who found out? Who was saying that the person was right wing?
It was. I believe the video I saw was from Midas Touch, where it's claimed that he was right wing, where the people were confronting him.
The people who were right wing were confronting him?
The protesters confronting him, and the Midas Touch was making the claim that right wing.
I see.
But
just because he was burning the flag, I would have a hard time thinking that there has to be more of a story to that, because that would be a hard thing to think that they would actually be willing to do that if they were actually right wing.
But
it's not like it's not possible. I just think that I'd be highly skeptical of that. That's all I'm saying.
My thought is just somebody trying to be an instigator.
Well, sure. I'm just saying that I don't have any issue with even saying a right wing person being an instigator for whatever reason. I'm more so saying that I think you're gonna have a hard sell having them even being paid to even burn the American flag. That's the thing I'm having a hard time thinking that would make sense. I think they would find that too much of an insult. So.
But there is one interesting thing I saw from a short of a person pointed out about the protest.
That a person pointed out?
Is that most of the time where these protests happen is normally you will have Proud Boys come in. But there hasn't been any Proud Boys recently, just ICE. So the question is did all the hiring recruitment that we mentioned earlier, did most of the Proud Boys get hired on into ICE?
Like, for instance, what I don't know.
That's a question right there of like
I think I've heard that offhand somewhere.
It's kind of fat. It's funny and sad at the same moment to be like, it is kind of funny in the sense that, like, okay, like this sort of protest, like, for them to become ICE, but it's also like, if it is ICE, that's a problem.
It wouldn't surprise me if Proud Boys were a part of ICE as compared to part of the protests, because they're the ones who were Proud Boys are I believe understood to have a screwy form of
they are white
patriotism.
They're white nationalists.
Right. There was that element too, but I think that they also had some form of a weird form of patriotism about them, I believe.
The famous one was like, have you seen like them holding like the tiki torches?
I'm not sure if I've actually seen a Proud Boy, to be honest, or at least seen him in action. I'm not sure if I've seen that. So it was
a protest that they had, like a counter protest or a protest where they were holding like the torches, and like you don't see, like, all you see is white guys
holding the torches.
Yeah,
right.
So for it, and several of the like lead members have like said like it's white nationalists.
I take that back. I have, at least with the white national aspect. That person might have been proud of the Proud Boys. I'm not sure, or maybe they just were familiar with them. I did see one interview with someone who was white nationalist. It was interesting. You have some interesting thoughts. Okay, then. Nice dude too, but it's like, woo, okay, that's an interesting point of view.
I was gonna say most people, if you get them up on the stage, will be polite because everybody at the first time tries to make themselves sound good in the public eye, but it's definitely once you get into more of messages designated to your groups that it feels.
You mean like if it's in their groups they're sounding more derogatory, or that they're actually saying what they think of, or they're saying here's how they prefer the country to be.
How they prefer country to be. That
person was actually saying that. They were actually they were saying that stuff. They were just nice when they were doing it. That's all I'm getting at. They were pleasant. They were even talking to an Assyrian. about it, because he was the one who decided he wanted to talk to them, just see what was going on in their head, in their minds, because he figured he was probably not welcomed according to that guy, because he's not white. But said so. But he was just intrigued to see how they think about things, and sure enough, the guy, while he was polite about it, he was not. He didn't really care for the guy to be there. He's like, he's not going to stop him, but he's like, yeah, I don't really prefer it, but so it was interesting to hear what he had to say.
Yeah.
But
I think that probably should be the end of the episode right there. So for those watching, if you are watching on YouTube, please subscribe, give a like, give a comment, ask in the comments what other discussions you want us to discuss. If you're watching it on a podcast, to follow and like and share amongst your friends, because that's how we get around. For that, thank you for watching Sacred Assumptions.